What up, guys? Happy Sunday. Welcome to Effed Up News of the Week for November 28th, 2021. Effed Up News of the Week is a little show that I do generally on Sunday nights when I'm available, where I do a compilation of a whole bunch of news stories that maybe I haven't covered throughout the week. Maybe I've just been saving them for this very special occasion. And it's been a little bit of a light week because, as you guys know, I was in London last week and I was traveling back and just got home in time for Thanksgiving dinner with my husband. So I actually didn't cover a whole ton of stories last week. So we've got some stuff to catch up on today. If I have not earned your subscription already on YouTube or Rockfin or Odyssey or even on Facebook, wherever this is being broadcast, I hope that you'll consider subscribing to my channel to keep up with my content. I do content around news, politics, culture, but really focusing in on critical race theory, social justice, wokeness, that sort of stuff. There we go. And sometimes I get things caught in my throat at the beginning of a stream, and I just need to take a sec to resolve the issue so I can actually talk with you guys, because I like talking with you guys. But if you're not yet subscribed on whatever platform you're watching on, I hope some of the stuff we cover today will get you to hit that subscribe key, or minimally just mounting the like button for the moment. That would be pretty great too. But if you really want to help me out and support the work that I'm trying to do, the very best thing that you can do is become a member in my Locals community. Locals is free to join. The address is in the ticker, kb.locals.com. But right now, as a special Black Friday deal that I decided to do on Friday, and it's only good through today, I want to encourage you guys, if you have not yet joined my Locals, this is the perfect time to sign up, because not only can you join for free and peruse the community, but for the rest of the day, for 7 more hours, you will be able to get a free month of supporter status in my community. Now, one of the ways that I support the work I do is by the wonderful people who support my work by becoming a member in my Locals community. Generally speaking, that's $5 a month, or you can do it for $50 a year, or you can make a one-time gift. But right now, and again, for like 7 more hours, if you head over to kb.locals.com/support and you put in the promo code Friday, you're going to get a free month. You're going to get a free month to check out all the features in Locals, to be able to comment on the post, to be able to interact with people in the community. You'll be able to join our 2 Zoom calls that we do every single week. You'll be able to join our Crafting Bitches. You'll be able to join our book club. We're currently reading Woke Inc., and we'll be having a chat about that in a couple of weeks. But now is a great time to join, guys. Again, you're not going to lose anything. You can join for free if you want to. But Locals is a way that I know I'll never be censored. We can talk about whatever we want to talk about. It's great, and I truly have the best community, I think, in all of Locals. We support each other. We help each other. Some of the best people I know. So if you want to support the work I'm doing, that is the very best way to do it. All right. Let's jump into it. Now, this is a little bit of a different story, and I'm going to be honest, I almost did this one last time I did Effed Up News, but I had a lot of other stuff to cover, and it just didn't make the top of the list. But I wanted to start off with this because it's one of those things that just kind of was like, it's not surprising to me, but it's also a little bit weird. Okay, so there has been a rising movement. Has anyone heard about this in the chat? There has been a rising movement called the anti-work movement, of people who've just decided they just don't want to work anymore. Now, no one likes to work, right? If we could all be independently wealthy, that would be fabulous. But there is actually a growing movement of people, because of the last almost 2 years of COVID nonsense, that are just like, peace out, I'm done, I'm not going to work. Now, I believe, and we're going to read this article and we're going to learn a little bit about it. I believe this is part of a larger initiative that, frankly, the overlords that be have, that want to make people more dependent on the government. So I believe this is going to play right into exactly what the woke left are doing. But let's take a look at this article from Business Insider, inside the rise of anti-work, a worker strike that wants to turn the labor shortage into a new American dream. Larry had a vision after he graduated from college. He and his then wife were going to be a power couple. They were actually going to actualize their American dream. They'd buy a house in the suburbs, go on vacation every 2 years. That vision of the perfect life eventually shattered. His then wife saw through the illusion of work, he said, and quit to take care of their children and elderly father. It took him a little bit longer to get there. It's something that someone else planted in our minds, Larry, whose last name is known to Business Insider. Now, Larry, 52, doesn't work. By the time the pandemic hit, he was ready for a change. He left his job as a maintenance technician in South Carolina to be with his ex-wife and children in Colorado. When he got laid off from a seasonal job there, he moved back to South Carolina to be with his mother. He now lives simply in a 20-foot trailer in her backyard. I really don't have any expenses. I don't need any money. I can survive without money. Larry is part of something that's growing. People who are opting out of work. Now, Ben Hairston super chats in. I like work, especially meaningful work. That's rewarding. I agree, Ben. I like working. And I think that working, and it doesn't need to be in like a corporate job or anything stuffy. I think that working can bring value into people's lives. I can think it can make them feel good about themselves. I think it can give them self-esteem. I think it can teach them to overcome obstacles. It can teach them to build things, to create things, to give things to the world. I don't like the idea of people not having work to do. Now, that's not to say I think that everyone should, go and work in corporate America. Obviously, I don't work in corporate America. I don't think that that's the right thing for everyone. But I do think that having a job, having a purpose, having something that you can say, I went out today and did that thing, I think that's a very important part of developing self esteem. Knowing that you can accomplish things, knowing that you have a value that you can sell to someone and receive a salary for it or receive a paycheck for it or any of those things. So this concerns me greatly, the idea of an anti-work movement, because that to me tells me there is a and I don't think this should come as a raging shock to anyone. That to me tells me there is a growing number of people who do not feel that they have something valuable to give the world. That's a problem. I always, from the very beginning, said that the thing with masks with COVID, you go back to March of 2020. You'll find videos from me saying these masks are going to be a problem because it's going to reduce people's self-esteem. It's going to reduce people's self-worth. When you wear something over the thing that you use to express yourself all day, every day, you're going to be much less inclined to express yourself. Why does that matter in relation to this? Because our ability to express ourselves is directly related to how we feel about ourselves. It's the same thing with this. Our ability to go out there and say, I have value in the world. I can charge money for my knowledge or my labor or whatever it is. That's going to impact how we feel about ourselves. I think that one of the best things that we could do to fight the woke left and the culture revolution that we are engaged in the country right now is to build up people's self-esteem, to make them feel good about themselves, to empower them, to help them know that they can do more. The biggest enemy the woke left would have is an empowered population that stands up for what they want and says, no, I am worth more than this. Let's keep reading this article. Some of them call it anti-work. It's a trend bolstered by younger workers such as Gen Zers making their mark on the labor market in America. It looks similar to youth-led movements. Oh, isn't this funny? Check this out. In America, it looks similar to youth-led movements against work in other countries, especially China. Huh. Where young people are lying flat by decentering a drive to constantly be more productive and competitive at work and instead find happiness in their own lives and relaxation. Now, I do believe that people should find happiness in their lives, but you can absolutely find happiness at work. You just have to find a job that you like doing. I don't really want to work anymore, Larry said. I don't want to have any meetings, no deadlines, no goals, no quarter, no seminar. I don't want none of that stuff anymore. A rising disillusion around the state of work has spawned millions of Larrys over the last year. People have been quitting their jobs at record rates for 6 months in a row now, and many aren't going back. That's because for some, work doesn't seem to be worth it anymore. Wages have been on the decline for decades while student debt is on the rise, blah, 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 blah. And then came the pandemic. Billionaires added $1.2 trillion to their collective wealth as millionaires or as millions of Americans were unemployed. Inequality widened. The stories of those in the anti-work movement provide some of the answers to why there's an ongoing labor shortages. Whether well, and you if you don't think that the employer mandates had something to do with this too, employers showed employees exactly how little they value them with the like, and I know that OSHA is not enforcing the vaccine mandate anymore, but employers who fired perfectly good employees over vaccination showed every single one of their employees exactly how expendable they are, exactly how little they are worth. If any of you worked for an employer that fired anyone over vaccination, I would have a second guess about working for them. They've literally shown you that they are willing to fire you over actions that have absolutely nothing to do with your ability to do the job. They've shown you their cards. They've shown you if you don't bend the knee and take whatever political position we want, we will terminate you no matter if you showed up and did a good job or not. There are a lot of factors that are leading to this, and I don't think any of them are good. Check this out, though. This is not a small number of people. The Reddit group r/anti-work has garnered 1 million followers since it first began in 2013. Half of those joined in October 2021 alone. That means that tens of thousands of people, if not more, visit the group daily. Look at this. Look at this. Boop. Through the roof. A lot of people mistake anti-work for being lazy and like nothing has to ever get done, one moderator told Business Insider. But the truth of the matter about anti-work and everything surrounding it is that obviously things have to get done, but the current structure in which things get done and the way in which capital flows as they get done is unfair and should be non-existent. Critical race theory is not about race. Critical race theory is about power. Critical race theory is about dismantling the system. That is what the woke left want. It is not about race. It's not about whiteness. It's only about power. The greatest enemy that the woke left have is capitalism. Capitalism. This is all part of this. This is directly related to what we've seen in terms of critical race theory in the schools, in terms of critical race theory in the workplace. All of this is related because their ultimate goal will always and forever be to dismantle capitalism. That's their target. Cade, a Gen Z worker in Kansas, is one of the people who turned to r/anti-work and posted after he quit his job as a service worker. He'd been considering quitting for a while, but he was pushed over the edge after his bosses posted a sign telling workers they couldn't use their phones during shifts. Oh no, not that. And if they were caught with their phones, they would be confiscated. I never really see anyone not doing work on their phones, Cade said. He added he didn't think management should have the right to take his personal property. Cade is not going to do very well in the professional world with that attitude, I'll tell you what. Cade said he first started seeing posts from r/anti-work a few months ago, and that reading people's accounts of quitting and learning about the ways they're rethinking work factored into his own decision to quit. He's already had at least one interview for a new job and has a little bit of savings built up to keep him afloat in the meantime. I think I felt like I could be part of a bigger movement. I didn't want to put up with this stuff. It's also where Caitlin, a fellow Gen Zer, went to post after she quit her job in food service to pursue woodworking full time. The group helped her to see that she's not alone. She thought issues like understaffing and long hours were just her workplace. Now, what they're talking about is different. They're talking about finding a fulfilling work environment. Well, best of luck to them because it's hard right now. I'm not going to lie, guys. It's hard right now. If I had to go get a real job and not work for myself, I don't know what I would do. I'd be miserable. I genuinely feel for everyone that goes out there and does it every single day. I do. I'm so blessed to be in the position I'm in. But what they're talking about is finding a fulfilling work environment. And if you want to find a fulfilling work environment, it is absolutely possible. You do need to be honest with yourself about the type of work that you want to do, the type of stuff that would make you happy, but it is absolutely possible. Like many aspects of the economy, the rising sentiment against working and the conditions crafted over the past couple decades have been jolted by the pandemic. Low wage workers were labeled essential, but even their small hazard pay hikes ended after a few months. Some employers seem shocked by shortages, by workers turning the table and ghosting them. Insider's Grace Dean reported that a barbecue restaurant in Florida shuttered after only being able to retain 4 employees. Damn you, pandemic and the political machine, for making it more appealing to not work than to be an active part of the workforce in our country. And this is a really good point because again, the enhanced unemployment benefits made it really appealing for a lot of people to just sit on their butts at home and do nothing. They could have used that time, by the way, to start a side hustle. I don't know why more people didn't use that like whole year of enhanced unemployment benefits to start a side hustle of some sort. It's what I would have done. Let's see. But the rise of anti work doesn't come as a surprise to Steve Rowland, the host of Retail Warzone, a podcast chronicling retail horror stories. One of the things that really kind of pushed it that way was all the stupid signs that were getting hung up on the doors. No one wants to work, unemployment benefits, et cetera, et cetera. I think that when that started happening, it forced people to kind of educate themselves about what's going on. It did definitely become a workers' market at that point. That's absolutely true. I think the newest generation reshaping the workforce may also play a pivotal role in the rise of demanding better conditions. I think that has a lot to do with Gen Z, Cade says. They aren't going to put up with their employer's crap anymore. Okay, let's see how that goes. Either way, workers said that employers should take heed. Roland predicts that come December, there could be a massive shift as the pandemic, supply chain issues, and unruly customers come to a head. It's going to be about a workforce that is finally going to be like, we've had enough. I don't think they're wrong. I don't think that's wrong. And Cade said if they keep quitting at this rate, employers are just going to have people to run their businesses and they're going to go bankrupt and or have to shut down or change their ways. That's probably not how that's going to work, but okay. Listen, so the whole idea of this is being able to be free, to be able to pursue the life you want to pursue. That's what's in these kids' heads when they're quitting their jobs, right? But what I want everyone here to hear is like, this is I'm sorry. This is not just about freedom. That's not what this is really about. You can create your own job. There's never been a better time to create your own job. There's never been a better time because you can work virtually. Employers are going to be much more flexible now. There's so much opportunity to do that within the current system that's set up. What these people are saying is, I just don't want to work anymore and I don't want to follow rules and I don't want to do anything hard. And if they ask me to do anything hard, I'm just not going to do it. I'm just going to quit and follow my bliss and go do woodworking, things like that. This is going to end up making people more reliant on the government. This is going to destroy small businesses. It's going to make it real difficult for them and many other things too. So we'll keep an eye on this. I think that this is interesting, but again, the thing I wanted you guys to know is and just really be aware of is this is all interrelated with all the wonderful, beautiful critical race theory stuff we have going on right now, which we have several stories to cover today. Starting with this one. The Salvation Army has gone woke. Thank you to the member of my locals community who suggested I cover this one today. Salvation Army donors withdraw support in response to racial wokeness initiative. This is in Newsweek. As the Salvation Army launches its Red Kettle campaign this holiday season, some of its longtime donors are withdrawing their support from the 156-year-old charitable organization, citing its newly embraced woke ideology as the reason. Of great concern to loyal supporters and faithful Salvationists is the initiative dubbed Let's Talk About Racism. In a nutshell, the curriculum outlines the Christian church's alleged racial collusion and provides action steps to analyze and combat racism through an anti racist lens while incorporating critical race theory. Definitions of institutional and systemic racism are included while real or perceived differences in life outcomes, inequities, are attributable not to individual effort and other circumstances, but to discrimination. Sections address topics including police brutality, healthcare, and black unemployment, linking such topics to racial inequity. I just want to say, I actually think, sidebar, Newsweek does an okay job of covering this stuff. They really do. They do an okay job of actually presenting a fair view of this stuff. That's troublesome for those who note the Salvation Army has been a leader in confronting racism long before the rest of the country and over 5 decades before there was a civil rights movement. And they're asking why they should be members of an organization built by the Christian faith to actually assist people of all races in need, be repentant of behavior they never perpetuated. In my estimation, CRT is a Trojan horse taking in well intentioned Christian enterprises that, because they care about justice and oppose oppression, naively promote the most serious threat to biblical Christianity I have seen in 50 years, wrote Christian apologist and radio talk show host Greg in a Facebook post earlier this month. Entitled An Open Letter to the Salvation Army, Greg prefaces the post by informing TSA, the Salvation Army, not the TSA at the airport, that he is terminating his monthly donations and directing them to another organization. Greg is also the founder and president of Stand to Reason, blah, 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 blah. There are massive numbers of academics, black and white, Christian and non-Christian, atheists and theists, who have raised the alarm against the aggressive indoctrination and frankly bullying of CRT, not to mention the racial essentialism inherent in the view. Greg isn't the only one who's voiced concerns over the new training created by the Salvation Army's International Social Justice Commission. It was last July that it was disseminated through emails, videos, devotionals, and other materials to field offices serving poor communities across the U.S. by the organization's 4 territorial commandos. General Brian Peddle, CEO of the Salvation Army, announced the initiative in February through a video in which he said, "It examines racism through the lens of scripture, church, and world history, and guides gracious discussions about the overcoming the damage racism has inflicted on our world and, yes, on our Salvation Army." They've got a quote from Kenny Zhu in here. Let's see. The appeal calling for a revocation of Let's Talk About Racism. Okay. Zhu questioned why the traditionally apolitical Salvation Army. Kenny Zhu, by the way, he's written a book about this stuff. He runs an organization called Color Us United. I'm not exactly sure what they do, but he's fighting the good fight. Zhu questioned why the traditionally apolitical Salvation Army would begin to promote such political and racial ideologies to begin with, which led him to organize a petition co-written by the Salvation Army captains and sponsored through Color Us United. It asked those to take a stand against the insertion of politically charged racial ideologies into the Salvation Army's good work. Currently, it has 12,200 signatures, so that's pretty rad. Repentance solely for the fact that you're white. We don't think that's very productive, Zhu told Newsweek, who also noted that 60% of those served by the Salvation Army are ethnic minority communities. That's a statistic he told Newsweek he discovered when talking to the commissioner. Here's the thing with the Salvation Army that's so crazy. These people spend their entire lives serving the poor. There's absolutely no reason to even suggest or insinuate repentance for their supposed complicity in racism. This is a really long article. We're not going to read the whole thing, but I just wanted people to be aware of it because it is one of those organizations. The Salvation Army has been around a really long time. This is one of those things that it strikes me as, listen, let me just be blunt. I don't get the impression, based on what I've seen and based on what I've read, that the Salvation Army really understands what they're getting into with this. Salvation Army is a good organization. It's been around a long time. This is one of those times when I do think that it is important to have grace in these situations. I do think it's important to say there are some organizations that are actively pushing this ideology, like the ACLU. There are some organizations that are being brought along by, frankly, useful idiots who truly believe that this is what they need to do in order to be good people and in order to do good things. And the sense I get is that that is what's going on here. The Salvation Army, I'm sorry, are being useful idiots in order to spread this. Now, that doesn't mean it's good, but we have to make sure we're dealing. I like the way Kenny Zhu's dealing with this in terms of like starting a petition, showing the Salvation Army, like, listen, There's a lot of people who don't like this. And we'll talk more a little bit later in this broadcast about some of the other polls that have come out recently. A lot of white pill polls coming out. But like I think organizations like this, it's about extending them some grace and doing our best. And I know it's ironic that I'm one of the people saying this, but doing our best to make sure that we're trying to approach this in a way that is going to be a little bit more productive. I don't think they have negative intentions. I don't think like the ACLU or the Democrats or any of those things. I think this is just a case where they're being useful idiots. But they're not the only one. Did you guys see this story? Thank you for Brooke and my locals community who brought this one to my attention. Notre Dame. I don't I never remember which is the correct pronunciation. Notre Dame, we're gonna go with that for right now because it's French. Notre Dame is being turned into a woke theme park. Cathedral is being revamped with a discovery trail. And Christianity for Dummies exhibits claim critics. How sad is this? How sad that the woke are trying to take advantage of a tragedy that burnt down the beautiful cathedral in order to create a woke theme park. Fire-ravaged Notre Dame Cathedral is being turned into a woke theme park with renovators adding a discovery trail and Christianity for Dummies exhibits critics have claimed. Under the new plans, confessional boxes, altars, and classical sculptures will be scrapped for trendy art murals with light and sound, creating emotional spaces. A discovery trail will lead visitors through various chapels, with the emphasis on Africa and Asia, and scripture will be beamed onto the walls in various languages, including Mandarin. One of the sanctuaries will even be dedicated to the environment. Why? Why? Have they completely lost the plot? This makes absolutely no sense. Listen, I don't have any problem with these topics being addressed in places where it's more appropriate. Notre Dame is not a place where this is appropriate. It is completely inappropriate. What they are proposing to do in Notre Dame would never be done to Westminster Abbey or St. Peter's in Rome. It's a kind of theme park and very childish and trivial given the grandeur of the place. I agree. Officials say that the symbol of France would be accessible to tourists with no understanding whether from China or Sweden, but critics argue it debases the 850-year-old church and turns it into a politically correct Disneyland. One senior source close to the renovation told The Telegraph the plans risk turning Notre Dame into an experimental showroom that would mutilate the cathedral. Can you imagine the administration of the Holy See allowing something like this in the Sistine Chapel, said the senior source, with access to the latest plans? It would be unimaginable. We are not an empty space here. This is political correctness gone mad. They want to turn Notre Dame into an experimental liturgical showroom that exists nowhere else, whereas it should be a landmark where the slightest change should be handled with great care. Here's what gives me hope about this situation. The fact that there's a news story about it, the fact that senior officials within their organization are saying, no, 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 no. Now, the plans have gotten this far, so that's a problem. But I do think we should acknowledge that there are obviously people who are like, no, 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 no. This has gone too far. And again, it seems to me like they're trying to handle this in like a reasonable way, but the fact that they're exposing it, the fact that there's a news story about this, the fact that there's a senior official quoted in the news story, that tells me that I hope, cross my fingers, because I've never been there and I'd really like to go someday. I got vaccinated to travel and everything. But I do hope that they're able to turn this around and make new plans because this just makes absolutely no sense. And can you imagine? I cannot imagine a reality in which there would not be a greater public uproar to this if they actually reopened and it was this woke paradise. Because do you guys remember, when did it burn down? April 15th, 2019. So it's only been 2 years. Do you guys remember the outpouring of like emotion when the fire at Notre Dame happened. Let's read about it. Notre Dame was almost completely destroyed by an inferno on April 15, 2019, when images of its toppling spire were seared into the minds of people around the world. The roof and spire are being restored to their former condition, but the new plans make drastic changes to areas of the cathedral that were largely unscathed. Look at those little bastards trying to sneak it in under the wire. But I remember what happened when this burned down. It was like all over my social media. People were crying. They're having very intense emotional reactions. Can you imagine that this reopens and it's some sort of woke theme park inside? I don't think people would like it. I don't even think Democrats would like it. I think it would be a really, really, really bad idea. President Emmanuel Macron has set a goal of allowing visitors back inside in 2024, the year that Paris hosts the Olympics. So we'll see. We'll see. Christian, the director general of the Notre Dame Foundation, who is in charge of most of the donations, also told the Telegraph the aim was to portray the major moments of the Bible to explain in the most intelligible to common mortals, whether Chinese or Swedish, what it all means. But a senior source warned that spending on the interior risks. So they're actually risking the funds. They're actually risking the funds that are dedicated to rebuilding this cathedral. The majority of the members of the scientific committee overlooking the restoration are not keen on the plans. But General Jean Louis, I don't know how to pronounce that last name, who Macron has tasked with leading the restoration, and the Paris Archbishop want to press ahead. So the reason that this is coming out, I'm going to bet you, the reason this is coming out is that people are trying to send a message to the people trying to push this stuff saying, this isn't going to happen on our watch. So we'll see who wins this battle. I think it's going to be an interesting thing to watch. But let's shift gears. Let's shift gears. Oh no, what's that? Oh, here we go. Here we go. Check this out. Check this out. Okay. Check this out. Let's shift gears. Have you guys heard about organizations that are trying to weight the votes of wait, why am I in the Gateway Pundit? Am I in the Gateway Pundit for something good or something bad? Cassandra Fairbanks hates me. Why am I in the Gateway Pundit? Someone tell me. Oh no, breaking news. Why am I in the Gateway Pundit? Oh god, someone could let me know what's going on there. But in the meantime, let's talk about weighting the votes of non-white people, shall we? This reported by Jonathan Kay and this was reported over a week ago, so a little bit older. The Ontario Secondary School Teachers Federated District 20 announced that their rules would be changed so that each non-white union member would have his or her vote weighted more than white members. Here are the slides used to justify that decision to the rank and file. Check this out. Weighted voting. If you guys think we're not going to see a lot more of this come up, you're not paying attention. Is weighted voting an example of reverse racism? 68% of the voting members of TBU AGM agreed. In order to understand the reason why we as a committee created the motion and why 68% of the voting members at the AGM agreed to it, it is important to understand systemic racism and how it manifests within our everyday lives. Past practice. Each TBU council voting member represents one vote. Those that did not identify as Indigenous, Black, and or racialized have direct power over the outcome of the representation within the committees, maintaining the status quo. To address the disproportionate representation of the voting members at the TBU Council, there we go. I'll get my acronyms right by the end of this. Quorum must include 50% representation from Indigenous, Blacks, or racialized members where possible. Otherwise, votes will be weighted to ensure a 50-50 representation. This is what equity looks like. Equity is not about Everyone having one vote, things being fair, things being even. Equity is about putting your thumb on the scale to try to give some all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. Gregor says, reduce the value of my vote. I demand you reduce my taxes at the same rate. Gregor, I think that that is a really, really fantastic idea. There's more slides. Let's see. What does this look like? Let's look at an example of voting on an issue. There are 20 TBU voting members. We are going to vote on recognizing Diwali this week for staff and students who observe the holiday. As a whole, we vote no. 13 votes for no, 7 votes for yes. As a whole, the motion goes down. Oh, but they don't like that. How did the vote break down across racial lines? Notice that this topic is important to Indigenous, Black, and racialized voices, but was not heard. The non identifying group has 16 votes. So, this is when they say non identifying, that means white. This is the white group. This is the non white group. So, 75% of the white group are against the motion to recognize Diwali, 25% for. Of the non white group, 25% against it, 75% for. Okay, moving on. Let's see how weighted voting allows other voices to be heard. Oh, all of a sudden, 3 people who happen not to be white are their votes are weighted, and all of a sudden it's a 50-50 tie because they're reducing the value of these votes and increasing the value of these votes. Racialized voices are heard. This allows for conversation and to grow together. Yes, I'm sure that the 75% of people who voted against it in the first place feel really heard in the context of this conversation. Conclusion. Anti-racism is the active process of identifying and eliminate racism by changing systems, organizational structures, policies, and practices and attitudes so that power, remember, critical race theory isn't about race, it's about power, so that power is redistributed and shared equitably. Ontario Anti-Racism Secretariat. Equal opportunity to participate in the Federation does not mean treating all members the same. Well, that's the very basis of equity, isn't it? To not treat all members the same. Within a democratic framework, promoting the engagement of members of equity-seeking groups is a valid and necessary approach to equal. Wait. Listen to this. Like, let me just read this. I know I just read it. We're going to read it again, slower, because it's actually amazing. Equal opportunity to participate in the Federation does not mean treating all members the same. Within a democratic framework, promoting the engagement of members of equity-seeking groups is a valid and necessary approach to reaching equal outcomes. So, this is the very definition of equity. This is the literal definition of equity, guys. By not treating everyone the same, which they say in the first part, they're actually reaching equal outcomes. By not treating people the same, you reach equal outcomes. Oh, what a time to be alive. No, what a time to be alive. Well, Manhattan schools are getting in on the action. This reported in the New York Post last week. Again, I was on vacation. Sorry, didn't get to it last week. Manhattan schools to sort kids by race during social justice discussions. A Manhattan junior high plans to racially separate students while discussing identity and social justice topics last week, the Post has learned. The Lower Manhattan Community Schools will conduct controversial exercises as part of its mission to undo the legacy of racism and oppression in this country that impacts our school's community, according to an email sent to parents. Kids in grade 7 and 8 middle school will opt into one of 5 categories, said the principals. Whites, Asians, and multiracial students have their own categories. Well, African Americans and Hispanic students are combined is into one group. Isn't that always the way it is? Isn't that always the way it is? The Latinx community, which they all hate the term Latinx, by the way, the Latinx community always gets lumped in with black people. They always get the people think Asians get the short end of the stick. Sometimes Asians are actually oppressed, right? Most of the time, they consider Asians to be white. They do. Most of the time, they consider Asians to be white, but every once in a while, Asians have their moment in the sun, and they're the most oppressed class that has ever existed. Occasionally it happens. But Hispanics and Latinos, they always get grouped in with black people. Always. Every single time. And then they're forced to use this term Latinx that none of them even like anyway. Exactly. Like the Stop Asian Hate campaign. This is a real thing. But then they'll consider Asians to be white, but then they'll say Stop Asian Hate. It's very confusing for Asians. But at least like Hispanics and Latinos know they're always going to be viewed as like they don't even get their own category. On November 23rd and 24th, 7th and 8th graders will explore the question, how do our racial identities influence our experiences? In affinity groups, the principal announced. An affinity group is a group framed around a shared interest. Dude, your race is not a shared interest. It's not a shared interest. Your race is not even the most interesting thing about you. The school has offered an additional group, which appears to be for those uncomfortable with the format. Oh, how nice of them. They're offering an additional group for people who don't believe in segregation. Congratulations. You have the segregated groups and then the people who don't believe in segregation. That cluster will enter the discussion asking, why are we even talking about racial identity? The optional program was developed in close coordination with both the school leadership team, PTA, and families. Oh, I bet the moms were pissed. This is probably coming from pissed off moms right here. That's why this happened. Said Department of Education spokesperson Nathaniel, who said it is abundantly clear to both students and parents that anyone can opt out of this 2 day celebration. And look how they framed this. Anyone can opt out of this 2 day celebration if they want. Why anyone would want to opt out of a celebration, I don't know, but they can opt out of the celebration if they don't want to celebrate. Douglas says she is further emphasizing race this year because students are talking about it since race has become a popular topic on social media. Yes, yes, because what the public schools should absolutely be doing is following what is popular on social effing media. Twitter already has way too much power in the world. I'm sorry. I don't take Twitter seriously at all. I get in trouble all the time for it because Twitter already has way too much power in the world. And now Twitter is going to be dictating what is taught in the public schools because the principals are following what is popular on social media and implementing that into the curriculum. Are you out of your mind? Who gave these people power over children? I'm being serious. Who decided to hire a principal that said, you know what I'm going to look for in educating young minds? Twitter. That just seems like a horrible idea to me. I don't think it's going to go well. She added that the school, which is 44% Asian, 29% white, and 15% Hispanic, and 8% black, had failed to adequately address race issues in the past. Well, too bad for their Asian students, which make up the majority of their population. An LMC parent conceded the affinity groups can be fraught, but said staffers can shepherd them appropriately. I think our teachers know how to handle it. No, they don't. Your teachers are teaching based on Twitter. The staff is very good about being clear when it comes to race. Some parents are so naive. If you have kids in school, please don't be as naive as that mother to think that teachers are remotely capable of addressing these issues appropriately. Please. I think a lot of this feel like this is too much, said another mother. But most parents are too afraid to say anything at this point. Why are we separating kids like this? An LMC dad said some families want the school to prioritize traditional academics rather than politically tinged materials. Teach the history, tell that story. I'm all for an honest accounting. But this is something different. It's insidious. Exactly. You know what else is insidious? Charging a parent $900,000 to find out what's going on in the schools. Yes, you heard me correctly. This is a letter in response to a FOIA request of a group that was trying to figure out what was being taught in the schools. And this letter is going to try to charge someone $900,000 to get them to answer their FOIA request. Now, many of you remember my friend Nicole Solis. Nicole is this mom in Rhode Island that, it started off with her just doing FOIA requests, public information requests to find out what was being taught in her daughter's school. And the NEA ended up suing her. The school ended up suing her. She is a spitfire. She is a warrior. She's jumped into this fight. But she tweeted about this and responding to Wen Young Woo here, who also does some amazing work, executive director at Californians for Equal Rights Foundation. She's doing amazing work as well. They've got a great group on Facebook. She runs one of the biggest anti-CRT groups on Facebook. But check this out. Check this out. Dear attorney, I represent Independent School District number 535 Rochester Public Schools. On September 20th, 2021, you submitted a 41-page data practices request to the district's interim superintendent, Dr. Kent Pichtel. The purpose of this letter is to provide you the estimated costs of responding to your data practices requests. The Minnesota Government Data Protections Act allows government entities to require any person who requests government data to pay the actual costs of searching for, retrieving, and making copies of the data, including the cost of employee time. Additionally, it allows the government entities to require prepayment. Get ready, here we go. The district has completed an extensive analysis of your 41-page, 332 paragraph data practices requests. The district estimates it will take 13,478 hours to search for, retrieve, and make copies of the data, using the employee with the lowest wage rate who would have the right to search for and retrieve the data that has been requested and applying the actual cost of making copies. The district estimates the actual cost of searching for, retrieving, and making copies is $901,000, $121.15. At your request, I would be happy to share a spreadsheet breaking down the costs. $900,000 they want to charge for parents to get access to what is going on in the taxpayer-funded government schools. In the state of New Hampshire, we are going to be having an educational transparency bill come up this legislative session. That bill would require teachers to put materials online so that parents can see what's being taught. This is not the first state this has been brought up in. It was brought up in North Carolina last year. I don't think it passed. I know that Chris Rufo is starting to do work on this. So, educational transparency is going to be key to fighting this stuff moving forward. And I know we can talk about cameras in classrooms. Of course, Matt Walsh is the great and glorious leader of cameras in classrooms. He didn't steal my idea at all. It's not like I had vetted it publicly on the internet months before Matt Walsh went on Tucker Carlson spewing my talking points. I'm taking a little break from that because Matt Walsh is the grand and glorious leader of cameras in classrooms. But trust me when I tell you that I plan on revisiting it next year after it's clear that Matt Walsh is going to do absolutely nothing to make that a reality. But in the meantime, educational transparency is where it's at. We should be pushing for educational transparency bills. Reach out to your state representatives in your state. Ask them about educational transparency because this is the reason that educational transparency is so important. Because public schools, government schools that we all already pay for are trying to charge parents $900,000 to find out what our taxes are actually funding. Just wrap your heads around that for a second. Fun times. George Andre Velasco Nunez says, "You needed the week to decompress. These news are very effed up. Either that or winter is coming both figuratively and literally." Dude, there was snow on the ground yesterday. There was. I don't mind though. I think snow's fine. Yeah, radical moderate. I am fully on board with cameras having sound. Yep. They were broadcasting what they were teaching on the internet all last year. They already have the equipment to do it. But as I've said, Matt Walsh is the grand and glorious leader of cameras in classrooms until April when I take that shit back. After proving that he is a shill that isn't going to do a goddamn thing about it, but people need time to wrap their heads around that idea. So, more to come on that. I promise. But we do need it more than ever because parents are getting arrested at school board meetings. This is fun. 2 Gwinnett County parents arrested. 1 allegedly bruised, slammed against wall at school board meeting. This is from the Tennessee Star. Law enforcement officers at Thursday's Gwinnett County Public School Board meeting arrested 2 mothers, one on the charge of criminal trespass and another on the charge of obstruction as part of the school's new security measures. Both mothers told the Georgia News on Friday that they did nothing wrong and that the school resource officers overreacted, to put it mildly. Karen Perkle said she displeased the school board members last month by speaking out against COVID-19 mask requirements. I'm going to sorry. I'm sure Karen is a lovely woman. The last person I'm ever going to try to cross in my life is a woman named Karen Perkle. I'm sure she's a lovely woman. I am. She returned for this month's meeting, and they told her she was trespassing. Someone came up from behind me and jerked my arm up. Mind you, I'm a retired deputy sheriff. I know the routine. They were trying to handcuff me, but the handcuffs were in my palm, so they weren't getting in onto my wrist. And then I kept saying I was resisting, which I was not. Sounds very familiar to another case I'm going to tell you guys about in a second. Then I asked the officers if I could at least give all my stuff to my husband. They said yes. Brenda, the other lady, came running and said, "Can I take your phone and paperwork to your husband?" I said, "I really appreciate it. We had never met. This was our first night meeting." She took it, and somehow when she was going through the metal detector, they found a pair of kindergarten scissors in her bag because she would be crocheting during the meeting. Now, side note, if you're going to bring knitting or crocheting into a place, you don't need scissors, man. You can break yarn. Here, I'll show you. I have some right here. Hang on. Not that one. I have some right here. Listen, this is yarn. This is yarn. You don't need a scissor. You can just break it. Okay? So stop bringing scissors into places. You don't need them. It's an easy way to get into trouble. Pro tip. The other woman, Brenda Stewart, said she witnessed law enforcement officers being rough and hurting Perkle. I went through. I go up to 2 metal detectors. This is a security desk there. I sat my purse down and I said I would get her phone. Then they went through the metal detector and then I came back. I wasn't going to stay at the meeting. My plan had not been to stay very long anyway. The school resource officer had my pair of kindergarten scissors that were in my purse. She said, "You cannot take these in." I said, "Okay." I went to take them, but when I went to take them, she started pulling and she went nuts and ended up slamming me against the wall and putting handcuffs on me. Now, I'm not defending this behavior when I say that you don't need to bring scissors to knit or crochet. I'm just pointing out the fact that you don't need to bring scissors to knit or crochet. All right? That's all. Stewart said she has spoken out against critical race theory at previous meetings. Both women said the officials kept them handcuffed for at least an hour. Law enforcement officers later transported the woman to the county jail and processed them. GCPS spokesperson Sloan said said in an email via Friday that school officials had added safety measures to provide a safe and secure environment for everyone. While there were some parents who started opposition to address security measures, other parents and visitors expressed appreciation for the efforts of the school district is taking to provide a safe and orderly meeting. Yes, I am sure that all of those parents felt so much safer once the kindergarten scissors were confiscated and not available to be used as weapons. By the way, my knitting needles are way sharper than kindergarten scissors. Just saying. Perkle says she prayed for guidance before she tried to attend Thursday's meeting. Schools are in such dire situations security-wise that they have 2 medical detectors, but some school board members were scared for their lives from a heavy-set white female who won't wear a mask. Well, this next story I'm going to tell you, this story got a lot of attention, but I just want to show this is not an isolated incident. And I know this is not an isolated incident because a member of the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire, the chair of the party, Nolan Pelletier, actually got arrested for the exact same thing at a school board meeting in New Hampshire. This happened literally as my plane is taking off to go to London. The LPNH signal group starts firing up. I was like, Nolan got arrested. Nolan got arrested at a school board meeting for not wearing a mask. Here's what happened. So this guy, we're going to watch this video. He went to his kid's school board meeting. He sat in the the section where people are wearing masks, and he wasn't wearing a mask, right? So without wearing a mask, he sat in the masked section. The school board had him arrested. They had him arrested. Here's the video. I'm gonna put this in a different browser because I need to be able to play the sound. Hang on, stand by. We're gonna watch the video of Nolan getting arrested in real time. You guys can see. Oh, hang on. Hey God. Sorry, I should have had this set up before. You guys know how it goes. All right. That's not the button I want. Here it is. Screen share, Chrome tab. Here is the video of Nolan getting arrested for not wearing a mask in the mask section at the school board meeting.
I'm not disabled.
Okay.
I don't.
She's read off the guidelines to you, right? Okay, you understand that you can be criminally trespassed from this premise. Is that what you're asking to do?
I'm not. No, I'm asking to attend a meeting.
Okay, you can attend the meeting. They're just asking that you follow the guidelines. It's in the other section.
I'm not disabled though.
Okay. Well,
So I'm not disabled.
Follow the guidelines, right? Correct.
All right.
Okay. So hang on. Would you like to have this person criminally trespassed?
I would like to have that
Okay.
person
All right, sir.
criminal trespass.
You have to leave this time.
Okay. I'm not going to resist. But you can take me out of here.
Is what you want to do? What's that? Okay, sir. Okay, please stand up.
I'm not going to resist.
Okay, sir.
I'm not going to stand up. You'll have to remove me from here. I'm not going to resist you. I'm not disabled.
So that's what happened there. He got arrested. Criminal trespass for not wearing a mask in the mask section at the school board meeting. Now, epilogue. There may be a bunch of us going to this school board meeting next week. There may be a bunch of us who will not be wearing masks in the mask section. We'll see how it goes. If you guys don't hear from me, you can just assume I got arrested at something. So we'll see how it goes. But the point is, guys, school boards are still behaving you guys know that I don't think that being on the school board actually makes that much of a difference. I don't. I think that being on the school board can be a hindrance more than it can actually help because you're not allowed to talk about things publicly. You don't even, unless you live in Vermont and Connecticut, you don't even have any say over the curriculum anyway. However, school boards are acting like crazy people when they're having people arrested for not wearing a mask in the mask section of the room, even if there's social distancing. So there will be retribution for this next week. It'll be fun. NBTTL1 says, you are doing the work others try to do. It's so common sense and something I can share. People listen. Thank you as always. Much love. I really, really appreciate that. Means the world to me. George Andre Velasco Nunez says, you're not called the most dangerous knitter for nothing. And you're right. It would have made more sense making the needles the issue. I'm just saying, man, you just got to play smart. I'm not saying give in to their crap. I'm just saying you got to play smart sometimes. That's it. That's all I got. Well, guys, we've got a couple more stories, but if you're enjoying this, please make sure you mount that like button. Please make sure you're subscribed on whatever channel you're watching on, whether that be YouTube or Odyssey or Rockfin or even Facebook. If you think you're subscribed on YouTube, just double check. Make sure you turn on notifications. You might actually be notified when I post new videos. But let's wrap up with some white pills. You guys know I like my white pills, right? Check this out. The tide is turning. Now, I don't want anyone to get too excited, but of course, we had an epic win in Virginia a couple weeks ago, and it seems as though momentum is in our favor. Corey DeAngelis tweeting about this about a week ago. New poll, 67% of Americans support funding students instead of systems. Do you support or oppose giving parents the choice to use tax dollars designated for their child's education to send children to whatever school they feel best serves their need? 67% opposed. Or excuse me, support. We like it. 38% of them strongly support it. 29% of them somewhat support it. Only 19% of people in this poll opposed the idea of funding following the students. Now, you guys know I'm very accelerationist in this regard. I do not believe we should be funding government schools. I'll take school choice in the meantime, though. You can see here he's posted this. Support for funding students instead of systems, overall 67%, GOP 76%, independent 64%, and Democrat 60%. That's got to make everyone feel good. Public awareness is on the rise. People know what's going on. And now check this out as our final white pill for the night. From Chris Rufo on November 22nd. A new USA Today Suffolk poll shows that voters oppose teaching critical race theory by a massive 27-point margin. We have educated 175 million Americans about CRT and they hate it. Now, Chris Rufo likes to paint things in the most glowing way he possibly can, and I appreciate him for it. I do. I do want to point out that there's still a lot of people who don't know what's going on. So this is not quite the slam dunk he's portraying it as. It's good. Don't get me wrong. It's really, really good. It is good news. But check this out. 47% of people in this poll, Suffolk USA Today poll, oppose the teaching of critical race theory. 20% support it. 32% don't know enough about it to say. So again, momentum. It's a trend, right? People are identifying it. They know what's going on. They know it's bad. They might not know all the reasons why it's bad. And here's what I want us to be extra aware of. Because just because someone opposes critical race theory, one of the problems is, and one of the things I do disagree with Chris Rufo on, is Chris Rufo is playing with language when it comes to critical race theory. And he's trying to brand everything bad in the schools as critical race theory. Okay? I don't think this is a good idea because I think it's leading to a lot of misunderstandings about what critical race theory actually is. And I think it's going to result in people overlooking things that are really, really, really bad, even worse than critical race theory. And I think it's going to cause problems down the road. I just do. But at least for right now, we have 47% of the people in this poll saying that they oppose what they believe critical race theory is. I do believe we have a long way to go in terms of helping to educate people about what this actually means. I want people to be able to define critical race theory. I want people to be able to identify critical race theory. I want them to know the difference between equity and equality. I want them to know why anti-racism is a bad thing. I want them to know what the purpose of this entire endeavor is, and that it's not about race, it's about power, it's about control, it's about destabilizing the system. Once we get to a place where people can define what critical race theory is and explain why it's not about race, but it's about power, I will feel much better about this. But for right now, this is a good start. I want to be very responsible in the way I'm presenting this. I don't think that this is the whole shebang, but it's a good start. The fact that 47% of people in this poll oppose the teaching of critical race theory is a good start. The fact that so many people are supporting The funding following the student instead of the system is a good start. Momentum is in our favor. We know, I didn't cover it last week because, again, I was out last week, but the week before, the Democrats are doubling down. The Democrats are doubling down on fighting for critical race theory. So they didn't learn their lesson from Virginia. They're only going to go harder. And so we need to really make sure we're doing what we can. Everyone watching right now, if you're watching my channel, I'm just going to assume that you're one of the people that's been following along more than others. But make sure you're explaining to the people in your life who aren't. Make sure you're explaining to your friends and your neighbors. Here's what's going on in the schools. Look at these assignments. Here's what this is. Here's why it's bad. Here's what the bigger picture is. Everyone needs to take responsibility. Guys, you don't need to have a platform in order to do this. In fact, I think that I'm one of the least effective people in this entire affair. I think that the people who are involved in their kids' schools, who are just talking with other parents in the communities, I think that that is resoundingly more effective than someone like me complaining on the internet. What I'm doing is trying to give you guys the best information I can. What I'm doing is try to give you guys the way to explain it in a way that's easy for people to understand. But the work that all of you are going to be doing in terms of just communicating with other people in your life, even if it doesn't feel like you're talking to hundreds or thousands of people, that's so much more important than a YouTube channel. And the reason I say this is that I hear all the time people say, well, Carlin, I don't have a platform. My voice doesn't mean anything. Your voice is more important than my voice. Your voice, if you're talking to just your friends, your family members, explaining this, following up, making sure you're continuing to hit on it over and over and over and over and over again. That's much more important than something like this. I really want you guys to hear that. I think one of the most, I once had a person tell me, Carlin, I'm starting a YouTube channel. I said, great. And she said, but I don't want it to grow big. I just want to make videos that I can post on my Facebook to talk to my friends and my family. I was like, that's even better. That's even better. So make sure you're not letting up, guys. We've still got a long way to go. All right, a couple more super chats. Nat D says, no penthouse forum in the school library. Oh, by the way, did anyone ever figure out why I'm in the Gateway Pundit? Did anyone ever figure that out? Someone said earlier I was in the Gateway Pundit, and I'm like, oh no. What happened? Why am I in the Gateway Pundit? George Andre Veloso Nunez says, here in Brazil, education expenses are received in tax return just like donations. All right, guys, that's all I have for right now. But just as a reminder, now is the very best time to become a member of my locals community, because for about 6 more hours, you can get a free month of supporter status. Now you can join my locals at kb.locals.com. You can join for free just to see what's going on. But listen, you might as well just sign up as a supporter. You might as well, because if you go on to kb.locals.com/support right now, and the link is pinned to the top of the chat, at least on the YouTube, and you use the promo code Friday for Black Friday, that's going to give you 1 month for free. So it costs you nothing. You're going to be able to come to the Zoom calls that I do twice a week with my community. I spend about 6 hours on Zoom every single week with my community because they're the best. You're going to get to come to our book club. You're going to get to come to our Craftin' Bitches. You're going to be able to interact with other people in the community. You're going to be able to find a nice little safe space of sanity in the hellscape that is the internet. And you're always going to be able to keep in touch with me just in case I get banned or get a stupid strike on my channel, which, let's be honest, is like not out of the realm of possibility. But I would love it if you guys to join my locals today. My local supporters, especially people donating at $5 a month or even becoming an annual member at $50 a year. You guys make it possible for me to do what I do. And I would really, 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 really like to be able to get 100 new supporters into my locals community by the end of the year. If you guys want to give me a Christmas gift, that is the best Christmas gift you can give me, is by becoming a supporter of my locals community. Thank you, guys. That's all I have for tonight. I'll be back tomorrow. Have a good rest of your night, and we'll see you soon.